Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to Gills and the Blood TV with myself and Boz for weekly roundup / match preview. Tonight will consist of Charlton preview at the end, but first we're going to talk about player contracts and the manager, because there's been a lot of talk of them,
a lot of debate
over the last week or so, especially after Bradford, first half after Plymouth, and also it's that time of the year again, so we start thinking about who do we release, who do we keep, and if we keep, for how long. So I put out a series of Twitter polls a couple of days ago, based on what I classed as senior or regulars from this season. So I left the likes of Henry Woods, that type of player, alone. Jack Tucker,
you expect the majority
Ben
of them to get 1 year extensions. That's what normally happens.
I think so. So obviously I've included Bradley Stevenson and Tom Adler in this because they've been in and around the first team squad this season, for league games, EFL games, EFL Trophy games, EFL Cup games, not just, Kent League games or Kent Cup games or whatever we want to say. So, and then of the players that we've had on loan, we've done a vote on 2, Conor Ogilvie, Tarvon Campbell. Billy King, I couldn't find whether he's out of contract or not, but for me, I wouldn't bother. So
Billy King, I said to you the other week, the kids bit they do in the programmes, they blur a picture out, don't they?
You didn't know who he was, did you?
9 times out of 10,
he's been in there twice, so we're clearly trying to make people realise who he is.
I to look at the answer.
So yes, I'm not bothering with him. Ricky Holmes is still under contract at Sheffield United, so I've not done a vote on him.
That was laughable, wasn't it?
Who was the other one? Oh, Graham Burke and Leonardo Silva Lopez still under contract at their parent clubs as well. So, right, I'll do it player by player then. So Thomas Holy was the first vote. The choices were release, 1 year or 2 year, based on the fact that we generally don't give 3 year. It's very rare.
Yeah, I went 2 years.
I said 2 years, so I think, well, obviously we've agreed on that 100%. I think he's somewhere back to near his best now.
Thinking about, a few months ago, we were all adamant he was off. I think it's set in stone.
I think there's a chance.
I think we may get him for another year.
I'm hoping we might do as well. That's generally what I think about.
I think at this level, he's prone to chucking the other one, as most keepers are, but we're not going to do a great deal better, are we?
Like we say, with everything in this level, it's League One, it's that level for a reason. So 73% agreed with us as well. That was the majority on the Twitter vote, said 2 year contract. So nice and easy to start with. I think the next one was pretty similar as well. Luke O'Neill, 2 years for me. Yeah. I think he's back to his best, or at least very close to it. He had a blip beginning of the season. I think it took him a while to adjust to Barry Fuller nicking his place.
Yeah, I think that's all it was. I just think he was used to being in every week, and all of a sudden he was out, and he was struggling to get back in.
But since another one who's benefited really from Zach Kwani's injury when Fuller's had to go to the other side and Ogilvie's had to tuck in, he's come in there and he's done really well. 4 goals again this season. I think I tweeted last week, 4 goals, 6 assists. You can't argue that. Directly involved in 10 goals this season.
As 3 transfers go, I mean, that was a good one.
And quality right backs. We've always struggled with right backs over the last sort of 10 years or so, I think, haven't we? So 2 years, and Twitter majority 2 years, 60. I'm going to regret writing this in one of the kids' gold pens. 68%, I think it was, or 60%, but it was a majority. Next one was Alex Lacey, which I thought would take up a little bit more in terms of not being sure. I plumped for release on the fact that he's played 33 games out of about 100 over 2 seasons, and I don't think he's been as good as some seem to think.
See, I went for 1 year.
Okay.
I was on the fence for that one because, as I've said to you plenty of times, I quite often forget he plays for us. We'll get on to Conor Ogilvie, but personally, if I had a choice of one or the other at the moment, it would be Ogilvie.
That is exactly my thinking, and he's not injury prone.
If we're going to say we're going to need 4 centre-backs, then we have already got 4 centre-backs already. My
concern with him is we're going to end up in the same situation as Ben Nugent last summer. So I'd go all out for Ogilvie, so that would give us Ogilvie, Max and Gabby. Yeah. And then he might go to Alex and say, well, here's a year, but you're not going to play. So then he might decide to move on anyway. I just think, from my point of view, for 33 games over 2 seasons isn't enough. Can we get someone who's probably only going to be 4th choice centre back? Can we get someone in?
That was my
who's not injury prone?
I went for a year because for me,
there's a good player in there. Don't get me wrong, and I think that's what people are sort of clinging on to. But for me, weirdly, I think his best games have been at holding midfielder as well, which is a bit odd. But
very good against Pompey away, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's the one that stands out. But for me, it's a release. Boz is being more generous, giving him a year. The majority on Twitter was 55% release. Tom Eaves is a weird one because I've said 2 years, you're going to say 2 years. The majority was 2 years at 63%. but we're probably 99% sure he's going to move on to somewhere else, isn't he? And there's a chance that it's already been done. Again, I'm not going to talk about whether he's down tools or not, because I think it's ludicrous, and I spoke about that on the Monday review. But
Look,
I think he's going to go.
I do. If, as people are saying, he's down tools, which I don't think he has. If he has, why shouldn't he? He's earned a move away.
Well, he shouldn't down tools.
No, yeah, maybe I worded that wrong. What I mean is, if he's looking elsewhere, he's well within his rights to look elsewhere. He's out of contract.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. And he's earned that right. Like you say, he scored 38 goals in 95 games for us. Every professional footballer wants to play at the highest level possible. So if he goes with my blessing. I don't think he's down tools for 1 minute. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times till I'm blue in the face. I think he's just going through a rough trot. And
obviously, because of the contract situation, fans are going to jump on that.
It's easy to make him a scapegoat, isn't it? So,
personally, I think he'll end up at a lower end championship club. I think on the Facebook page, I said I thought someone like.
I think so, or it could be dependent on maybe whether Sunderland don't go up. Then he might end up there.
Yeah, I did see that rumour again.
Is there a rumour? That was just me surmising.
It was just
I think
one
he could
random
end up
Sunderland
up
fan
there.
that appeared on my timeline.
So we'll see what happens. Next one, Billy Bingham. Same principle for me. Same as Alex Lacey. There's a decent player in there, but he's played 30 games in 2 seasons. If it might be slightly more, but it's 35% of games over 2 years. So for me, unfortunately, as much as I like him and I think he's good when he plays, he don't play enough. So for that reason, I'm released.
See, I'd like a full option of a 6 month.
Pay as you play. Someone said the other day,
I would
didn't
give
they?
until January and say, if you play X amount of percentage of those games,
We'll extend it.
Yeah,
It's a potential option.
I'd say he's similar to Lacey in the injury bracket, but I think you notice when he's on the pitch.
I think he's
So for me,
more pivotal to what we do.
He's worth the
when
risk
fit.
if you're going to risk it on one of them. To me, I would risk it on.
Oh yeah, if you said to me, you've got X amount to spend spare and you can only have Lacey or Bingham for a year, you've got to take one. I'd take Billy Bingham because I think he's more pivotal to what we do well when he is fit.
It's because the system if he plays at the base, generally,
he does it well.
Yeah, we don't have anyone else like that. So.
And we realised how good he is at the base when we played him from the left side of the diamond
and
first
how bad
half
he was
against
from the
Plymouth,
left,
and he was absolutely shocking. And I'm sure he's big enough to say that as well. But wasn't injured Easter Monday. I think we done him a bit of a disservice because we had a little pop in terms of how can he not play that many minutes in 10 days after apparently training for 3 weeks to a month. But he missed Monday because his missus went into labour or thought she'd gone into labour. So all the best, Billy. If you are a dad now, then congratulations. And yeah, I'm really sorry, but I've got to be consistent in terms of Alex Lacey, so I'm saying release.
I voted on the 1 year, but ideally I would go 6 months as an extension there if you play X amount of games.
Fair enough. And in terms of Twitter,
it.
57% said release. Again, it's just over half, unfortunately. Next one is Bradley Stevenson. Very good at the start of the season. Mr. Lovell was bigging him up. Just disappeared off the face of the earth for the last 3 months. I would personally give him 1 year.
I went 1 year.
But I think that's probably the last one. And then there's got to be some real sort of... Similar to Darren Oldacre. Darren Oldacre's featured in, 25 games this season? I'd say he's got to be doing that next season. If not, it might be time to maybe go to a lower level and start again a little bit.
He does seem to excel when he does go to the lower levels.
I think he's highly rated within the club, which I think might swing it. I had a chat with someone on Twitter the other day about apparently a misdemeanour, but the reason he got away with it was the fact that he is so highly thought of. But that's just surmising, that's just Twitter gossip, so don't for 1 minute think we're saying that he's done something wrong.
I will say, having seen him now for probably the last 3 pre-seasons, but we've been going regularly to pre-season games, I wasn't that keen until last pre-season.
Last summer was a slight breakthrough.
And suddenly I thought, you know what, there's a player there. And when he came on against Pompey, he looked decent, really good against Millwall apparently when he came.
There was a home game he come on when we were there. Was it Sunderland he
Pompey,
come on?
Wasn't it?
No, I think it was Sunderland at home really early on in the season. He got 20 minutes. He had a good shot where the keeper pushed it around the post and he was involved. Pompey was... Did he come on against... Was that in the...
Maybe I'm getting this.
I don't think it was Pompey. I think it was Sunderland. Pompey was Nolan Bow at home come on, wasn't it? But
yeah, because he started the following week at Doncaster, didn't he?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
He got a couple of games early on in the season. And
I
then
agree. I think there's something there.
So
I
1 year?
Go 1 more year, yeah.
Right, well, we're... Bloody gold pen. 58% have said release, so we're in the minority to a degree there, but it's not minority, it's...
Well, I look at these youngsters, is generally not going to be on a great deal
The
of
low
money,
risk, the low wage, yeah, exactly. Next youngster, backup keeper number 2, Thomas Hadler. I'd give him another year.
See, I'm very much on the fence for that one. I went for another year purely on what we've seen in pre-season when I've been largely impressed with him for a number of seasons now.
Yep.
But I said it to you before on here, when he plays for the first team...
We can see the lot.
Yeah.
But we play him in the first team when we're playing a mix and match side in front of him. That would be my thing. And it's trickier for goalkeepers to break into the side because it's you or one other. You can't go, oh, if I can't play left back, I'll play right back, or if I can't play centre half, I might play holding midfielder. So it is really tricky. And like you said, I think
if you said to me now, do I think he could be number one next season? I'd probably say no.
Which is why I'd keep him as number 2 for another season, whether that's behind Holy or another keeper. Yeah, he might decide he don't want to stay. So
for all we know, Holy may have already agreed to go, and Hadler's been told he's number 1. We don't know either way.
Or Holy might be staying, and Hadler's already been told he's not going to play, and he might go National League. Yeah. You don't know, do you? So it's all surmising, like we say. But so both
again, I went 1 year on that. For me, though, I think we can do better if we look at him as a number 1.
But yeah, but again, it's
if he's happy to be number 2, fair enough. But if he wants to be number 1, fair play to him. If he wants to go somewhere else and get games. Fair
enough. And in terms of Twitter, the majority said 1 year, 50%. Obviously, the other 2 were split between 2 years and release. Quickly then, loan players. Tarvon Campbell, out of contract at Forest Green. We've not seen a lot of him, have we? So it makes it tricky, although...
I'm not totally convinced. I watched the game on iFollow on Monday, and there were moments where I thought, he's got a bit there, and then there was other times where his touch is off, or he's overplayed passes. I don't know. I'd invite him back for pre-season.
I'd offer him a year. I think from what we've seen, like you've said, there have been moments that you think at that age, similarly to Brandon Hanlon at the start of the season.
I was thinking on Monday watching him. You remind me a lot of Hanlon at the start of the season.
So on that basis, I'd offer him a year. And the fact is, if Eves goes, we're going to need a striker in. Probably a couple, at least.
Yeah, because I don't think we're going to get another 20 goals. Well, I didn't we would when Eves came in, so we may do.
Eves goes, we've got what? Hanlon and List. So we need a couple in at least. 1 year for me, you're saying?
I think I went with release, but I would have him back in for pre-season.
So you said look elsewhere. That's
chance.
Fair enough, no problem at all. Twitter said 1 year, 54%. And the last one I think was pretty overwhelming. Connor Ogilvie, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Happy to hold my hands up and say he's proven very, very wrong this season.
At centre half, he's been a completely different player, hasn't he? So for me, I'd get him in as the...
If we were looking at next season now and he was staying, you'd look at him and Max to be the first choice.
Is there a case, based on who we spoke to, up to Sean, if you're watching, we spoke to Sean at the end of the match day vlog last Friday, and he said there's a case for them two that are playing at the moment to be the first choice pairing next season.
That's exactly what I've just said.
I think there's a case for that as well.
Yeah, I do.
I think he adds more balance. Gabby's coming back from a big ankle injury.
He's very good at bringing the ball out as well. Even on Monday at Bradford, a few times bringing the ball out over the halfway line. And I think you said at home games before, he comes to get the ball, whereas Gabby quite often the ball goes back to Polo, and he turns back
and waits for it to come over his edge. Yeah. So for me, Connor Ogilvie 2 years, you're 2 years.
I think he's certainly earned a contract.
73% said 2 years, so yeah, I'll be more than happy to get him in.
If you'd have asked last season, that would have gone totally.
That'd have been 73%. Probably don't bother, I'd have thought, which is testament to Mr. Ogilvie himself. I haven't voted yet for Player of the Year. I need to do it. Are you going to tell people who you voted for?
Yeah, I did it straight away. Fuller was my Player of the Year, and Hanlon was my young player.
I've gone Hanlon for young player of the year, and I'm still torn between Barry Fuller and Tommy, so I'll have another think.
Yeah, the only thing that swung it for me was I expected these to be up there. I didn't expect Fuller to be.
Yeah, that's a fair shout, to be fair. Yeah, we knew what we were getting with Eves if he got a decent run of games and was anywhere near last year. For me,
no problem if Eves does get it, because I think they'll be the top 2.
Don't say that. There'll be plenty that'll hate that. But yeah, so I'll do that tomorrow.
We'll be there this year as well, so
looking forward to it. Hasn't got to wear a black suit. Doesn't know whether he's got to wear a black tie. Stocky will be moaning if he's not found out yet. Right, the big one. The man in charge of it all on the touchline, Steve Lovell. We did a vote. I think we did 4 options. Go out of his depth.
Sat on the fence again with that.
Thanks, but need to look elsewhere. As in, we think he's done a decent job, but let's move on.
That's what I went with.
Genuinely not sure, or keep him on. I did genuinely not sure. And then I decided to do a bit of digging, and now I'm even more not sure because of these. So I did a breakdown again of the season. First 10 games, I think, gave us 0.8 per game. We only won 2, we lost 6. Relegation, 37 points over a season. From that Portsmouth away game to now, 34 games, 1.29 points per game, 60 points in a season. So that'd have us, what, 10th?
Yeah.
And from the end of the January window to now, 15 games, won 5, drew 5, lost 5, 1 point 3 per game, 61 points for a season. So my question to you, how much did that horrendous 8-game winless streak in the league cost us? We could be looking at reeling in Fleetwood and Oxford if we pinched a win in that lot.
I think it was a Scunthorpe game and we won. And that day we spoke to James and Reece before the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to James that does, and I think we'd gone. And
before kick-off, you thought we'd gone?
And then we beat Scunthorpe and suddenly we're going a bit of a run. And
so we've beaten since then. We've beaten Scunthorpe at home, we've beaten Oxford at home, we've beaten Plymouth at home, we've drawn with Rochdale. So in terms of, again, that almost puts to bed the thing about not taking points off sides around us.
I just think with Lovell, and I know other people have said it, as soon as you think he's gone after today,
he pulls out a rabbit out of the hat.
And then we go 3 or 4 games unbeaten.
And then the other thing is, like when we went to Portsmouth after the back of that horrible run, and we sat in the car with James and Reece and we said, great, we've gone and beaten top of the league, unbeaten at home all season, unbeaten anywhere all season. You've got to back it up. And then we rolled over and died at Southend at home next week. I think the other thing was, which indicates why we are where we are, is aside from that 8-game winless run right at the beginning, it's 4 apart from that, the longest run without a win. But our longest unbeaten run is 3 games in the league.
Yeah.
So that says we're somewhere where we are. But then obviously we're slightly below that because of the fact that we had that 8-game one right at the start. We ended up playing catch up.
You know, a week or so ago we were up to 13th when really the bottom of the league's a joke, isn't it?
So I don't buy that. The bottom of the league is a joke, and I had a little chat with James in the group the other day, but table doesn't lie at the end of the day. We are where we are because we're there. Do Luton care that they're there because of teams below them? No, they're there because they've won more games and more points than everyone. Are Bradford going to go, oh, it's all right, we've been relegated because the bottom of the league was tight this season? No, they're going to be heartbroken because they've got relegated to League Two. If you take away all the layers and the problems that Bradford are having behind the scenes, the Football League table is as it is because teams where they are have got that amount of points. I know we had a couple of years ago where we said we got away with it because we played for a point at Northampton and then got lucky because Port Vale couldn't score at Fleetwood. So I do see that side of it. But my point is, when we were really struggling and people were saying we're getting relegated, that was on Steve Lovell. But now we're 13th or 12th, that's on the league table. You can't have it both ways.
No, I do see that. And I think I tweeted after, what's the one last week? I've already forgotten what was good.
Plymouth and then Bradford.
Plymouth, yeah. You know, first half was
dire. It weren't any better than
I
Shrewsbury.
tweeted at half time and said he's making a bold decision here and I said after game, hands up, fair play. You know, he takes a stick when we're poor, but
that's it. Yeah, so you have to give him credit when he makes a positive change, and he must have known, taking Tom Eaves off, if we got beat, he was going to get absolute pelters from everyone. So you've got to give him a round of applause for that. Some people like to turn even a positive into a negative. That's up to them. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I get that. Anyway, that's enough about.
We totally went off there. You asked me about Lovell and then we went off on one.
Did you actually give us an answer?
So I went with. Thanks but time
move
to
on.
look elsewhere.
And I went genuinely not sure. So
I don't go with this stories that are coming out this week about Steve Evans coming in as director of football. Don't like the bloke. I
don't want him at a football club.
Him and Scally, it would.
I can't see it working.
Last weeks. You know?
You'll have to extend the ballroom. Number one, there's 2 egos, and number 2, Steve Evans has got to get through the door. But
if you're Steve Lovell and Steve Evans comes in above you, you're straight away thinking, as soon as I had a bad run,
I'm undrawn and quartered already. Yeah.
The only time I'll say this director of football seems to work with us was when Hess was in charge of it under Allen. Obviously won the league, but in the lower leagues, you don't hear a lot of success stories of directors of football because they're all there for that reason. I think Paul Hart's...
And we all know they all come in, and invariably by October, November, they're in charge. Peter Taylor did it 2 seasons ago and then he walked out. So Jesse's done it a couple of times.
So let's say that comes across because that's what we've been hearing all week, isn't it? All over Twitter. So Evans is director of football in the summer, he likes to bring a lot of players, 15 players.
It's not for me.
Lovell then goes, say, end of September, Evans comes in. Does Evans then turn around at the end of the season when it goes tits up and say, it's Steve Lovell's players? Or does he hold his hand up and say, my players? I don't think he will. We
know what his character is. You only have to look at his Wikipedia account to find out what he gets up to. It's a massive no for me. The only fans that seem to have anything good to say about him are Rotherham. And their players, I see a video recently of when he got sacked and they were singing songs about him. He's an horrible bloke. I think he blows smoke up his own arse. I don't think he's as good as he thinks.
Yeah, I think he had
And he
that good
needs
spell
money.
and he's still living off that Rotherham success.
He's effectively a lower league equivalent of Theo Walcott, who lived off one hat-trick for England for about a decade. That's my opinion on it. And on top of that, he's an absolute tool. Anyway.
He's not for me, personally.
It's not for me either. We need to have a look at Saturday, which is our final home game of the season. And our dear friends from South London... Are they from South London? They are from South London. They're from London anyway. This lot are coming to town. Six points off second, Charlton. But if one of Portsmouth or Sunderland win that game in hand this weekend, they can't get in, and their goal difference needs a massive swing. So for me, I think they might rest a load. In terms of form...
See, I don't think they will, because I think they're going to want to go into it in good form.
I can't see them risking Lyle Taylor for the last two games.
See, I think they will.
But we'll see how it is. One of us will be right, one of us will be wrong. So it'll be fun, won't it? So last six for Gills. Of course it is. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Charlton is 5 wins, 1 defeat. Sole loss in that 6-game run was at Oxford a couple of weeks ago. Apart from that, they're absolutely flying. In terms of home and away form, though, a lot closer. Gills from their last 6 have 3 wins, a draw and 2 defeats. So 10 from 18, which is decent enough. And away from the Valley, Charlton have 3 wins, 2 draws, no defeats. So 1 more point, 11 from 18. So it makes for a decent game. Gills have only lost 3 in their last 11 games in the league. So that's 16 points from 33. You take that all season long, over 50% available would be enough for about 70 points, which would be a great, you'd take that all day long, like I say. So, and in terms of Charlton, like we've said, playoff berth is secured. It will take a massive chain, weird chain of events for them to nick second. So it's playoffs for me. For them, we've already mentioned him. Biggest threat will be Lyle Taylor. Carried on the mantle, took over.
You say the biggest threat. I think Josh Barker's got a point to prove. Very divided opinion among Gills fans.
But will he start if Lyle Taylor starts? Like you just said, you think he will?
Parker plays, Parker scores.
They don't play 2 up front, so I don't see Parker playing. If you think Lyle Taylor's going to play, I'm not sure. He's got none in 8 for him anyway, and he hasn't started all of them.
Well, we know what's coming, don't we?
But we know Lyle Taylor. He's got 23 goals in 41 games in all competitions. He's their best player. He's carried on. He's got better and better since Ahern Grant left and went to Huddersfield in January when they thought, he might struggle or they might struggle. They've got Joe Aribo. They've got Marshall, who I've liked for a few seasons, but we don't play wide players. Johnny Williams shouldn't be playing at this level.
No, Johnny Williams very
if it wasn't for injuries, he'd be in the Premier League. Johnny Esther, I think they call him. And I just wanted to pick up on this. I was looking through their squad on Twitter, on Soccerbase, sorry. Is this the best name ever? Hasn't played a game yet. 19-year-old Wilberforce Okran.
Wow.
What a name.
Sounds like a vegetable.
I don't know what vegetables he eats, but
I don't.
Not many. That might be the greatest name I've ever heard. Wilberforce Okran, 19-year-old, plays for Charlton. Anyway, team news. No Gabriel Sequani. No Ricky Holmes. He has finally gone back to Sheffield United. It didn't work out. I'm not going to talk about the whys and wherefores. Everyone has their opinions on it. Can't change it. And no Callum Riley might be back for Blackpool. I wouldn't make loads of changes from the weekend games, to be honest.
We weren't great against Bradford. I did read Lover's comments today saying we were good or we had a good go. We didn't. It was poor.
So I looked at stats. We had loads of chances, it said, but couldn't hit cow's arse with a cricket bat by all accounts.
A couple of them were Bradley Garmson efforts from distance that flew over.
Yeah, I see he had one. I know Brandon had a header and a shot, and they said Campbell had a shot, and then he had one keeper come out and smothered it at the end at 1-1, and we had the Charles Cook at the bar, didn't he?
Played number 10, and I'm telling you now, this is not a number 10.
I could have told you that before the game. But
he barely touched the ball in the first half. He did get better in the second half.
It's like playing Josh Parker at the beginning of the season. It doesn't work. So, anyway, team news. Back four stays the same, keeper stays the same.
Yeah, they're not going to change.
If Fuller's not fit, then Garmston comes in, Mark Burns stays at the base.
Yeah.
We set the goal up, had a shot, got some good balls into the box, it seemed, on the Twitter account. But like you say, you watched it, you know more than I do. Keep Byrne at the base.
Yeah.
Keep Regan, Charles Cook and Leonardo da Silva Lopez from the sides if they're both fit.
Yeah, Charles Cook did a handling for me against Bradford. He was rubbish in the first half, and in the second half he looked a different player.
Better and better. Would you keep listing the 10? Or would you try and change it and play
no.
play it as wingers and maybe play Hanlon through the middle and Campbell and List from the sides?
He's probably personally, I would drop List or Campbell out.
So you maybe go. So who would you bring in?
Probably
So then you could
Charles
bring.
Cook in the 10 and bring.
You could bring Bingham in then, and then move Byrne to the side of the diamond, and then Hanlon and Campbell up front, or Hanlon and List up front.
Yeah.
Right, that's fair enough.
I don't think this is number 10.
And so bench, I'd have Hadler, Garmston, Lacey, unless obviously Fuller gets injured. I've got Dean Parrott, Billy Bingham, Josh Reese and Tom Eaves. But again, it's all on about whether Barry Fuller's fit and Leonardo da Silva Lopez is fit.
I do have a
I've missed out Graham Burke from that as well. I'd probably put him in instead of Josh Reese, actually.
I was just going to say, I've got a feeling Josh Reese might start this weekend.
No issue with that.
He keeps coming on in games, and again, he looked all right against Bradford.
Yeah, I think he's had a decent start. We were talking about signings on Twitter the other day. I can't remember who with now, and you said if you look at
It was Jack, wasn't it?
Jack the Gill, I think he said if you look at the 6 signings, the 2 that you probably thought would be the best 2 have been the underwhelming ones due to injury because they keep breaking down. But Brandon Hanlon and Barry Fuller have been immaculate for me. Massively pleasantly surprised. Josh Reese has got better as the season's gone on, and I think Regan Charles Cook had a really good start, then got dropped out the side, and in the last few weeks he's got back to his best. So I think 4 out of them 6 signings have been really good, and if you keep the other 2 fit, they're very good League One players. So, well, not a million miles. That's for chat for another day. Prediction.
No. Right, so prediction, I will go 1-1, and I really think Josh Barker's going to score their goal.
And for us?
For us, I'm going to go Hanlon because he's on a bit of a run now.
See, I've said because I think they might rest a few, so I think it might be a patched up side a little bit for Charlton. So I'm going to go for an entertaining. I don't know if you can see it because this pen colour's horrendous. Gills 2, Charlton 1, Hanlon and List. Right, it's quite a long one there. Plenty to get through. I know there was a few people on Facebook who, I know Dave Gay from Germany on Facebook asked if he could be made aware of the results of the Twitter polls. Apologies, we didn't put it on Facebook. It's just that you can't time it on Facebook, can you? No. You can't put an end date on it, so it's tricky to gauge then. So that's why it was on Twitter only. But you've got all the results now. So let us know on YouTube, who would you keep, who would you get rid of? Comment on Facebook, get involved, tell us who you'd keep and get rid of and why. We will be there Saturday, all 3 of us. Myself, Boz and Stocky. He said last week he was going to be there for the final home game of the season against Charlton for Matchday Live. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, up the Gills.